Um, okay, and so just before I introduce a couple of other members of our team and turn the event over to James, I would like to share just a couple of truths about myself and about the place that many of us call home. I am not Indigenous, rather I'm a settler of colonial ancestry. Although my heritage extends to England, I, like many other settler people, have benefited greatly from living on Turtle Island. Our university, Trent Peterborough and Trent Durham GTA, is located in the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. I believe that it is not only important to recognize the Mississauga for their care for and teachings about the earth and our relations, but to also honor these teachings through our interactions today and every day hereafter. In light of this history and understanding a role as treaty people, may we dedicate ourselves to moving forward in the spirit of partnership, collaboration, and reconciliation as we learn together and contemplate the possibilities that lay ahead. So just before I turn things over to James, I'll just introduce a couple of the other members of our team that are here with us today. Erin Davidson is a registration officer. And I'm not sure she's listening in. I'm not sure she's able to put her video on, but she's here and can help us answer questions at the end or as we go through. Stephanie Belfry, the manager of the School of Graduate Studies, is here. And James Conley, the acting dean of graduate studies. So just before I toss it over to James, I will just let you know that he's going to do a PowerPoint presentation, give you lots of information. If you have a question, you can pop it into the chat, and where there's a natural break, we'll just try to answer the question then. If we don't get to it, we will for sure answer them at the close of the presentation. So without further ado, you can go over to you, James.
Thank you very much, Laurie. So I have a short, well, maybe a 15-20 minute presentation that explains some of the graduate program offerings that we have here at Trent University. I realize that some of you, either now or some of you listening to the recording, may be interested in attending other universities other than Trent. They have, I should say, sort of similar structures and application processes that we do. So if something is sort of interest to you here, you can certainly, it's sort of, there will be parallels to other graduate programs at other universities. So although I'm focusing on Trent because that's the sort of the situation that I know best, of course, the information is applicable in many cases to other universities as well. So by all means, ask questions in the chat. Laurie can field those. If there are other questions about things that you'd like to ask me, by all means, put that in the chat. And if there's a, either at the end or Laurie can interrupt me, we can stop and answer questions midway through as well. I've had a long day of meetings, as I imagine other people have as well. My voice is now in the sort of gravelly side of where it otherwise would be. So I'm going to, some of you, of course, already done your homework and already know what graduate programs are and what graduate school is and why you're interested in doing that. Some of you may just be testing the waters and not really have yet a clear idea of what it is you want to do after you graduate. I know when I was an undergraduate, I had absolutely no idea of what I wanted to do. And I can remember my last day of being an undergraduate after my last exam, sitting in the library, staring out the windows, sort of wondering, what do I do next? And it did take me a while it took me a couple of years to work out what I wanted to do, but I did get there in the end. And I did follow that. I did eventually end up in the graduate program that I wanted to end up in. But what is graduate? What are graduate studies and what is a graduate education? So it's changed a bit since I was a graduate student, but fundamentally it's still the same, which is it's an advanced program of study after an undergraduate degree. Where it's changed a bit is that there are a few more options than were available when I was a student, and that there are now graduate diploma options as well. They didn't really exist when I was an undergraduate. There are also, as I'll explain in a few slides, this may be less applicable for those of you currently in your fourth year, but there are opportunities to stream or get advanced or accelerated standing in a master's program. And there are also opportunities for entering PhD program in which you might start as a master's student, but transfer into a PhD program as well. So the landscape's changed ever so slightly in terms of how you might enter these programs, but fundamentally it's still a program that occurs after your undergraduate degree offered by a university. So you might be thinking why you might want to go to graduate school. There are lots of good reasons to consider it. And principally, people want to attend graduate school because it improves your career options and qualifications in an area of study in which you're interested at pursuing at a professional level. So you can expect that a graduate program is going to elevate, it's going to increase your understanding and knowledge and skills in a particular branch of knowledge that the university teaches in, whether it's sort of biology or nursing or education or history. And you do that because you're interested, often because you're interested in improving your career qualifications or career options and qualifications for a job that you're interested in achieving down the road. Lots of people also, though, because they're just passionate about an area of study, want to pursue that at the graduate level as well. So it doesn't always have to be about the jobs and the career you get at it. It could just be to fulfill an interest. You've really enjoyed being a university student, and you'd like to spend an extra year or two sort of going into a bit more depth in your area of study, and that might lead to a job down the end, but that might not be your primary focus. So certainly there are a number of students that are doing it because they're interested in the pursuit of knowledge. Sometimes, and a branch of those students are also interested in careers in teaching or research. And that can either be in the public or the private sector. It might be that you're interested in research and development and working for a company that, like a media-based company that is doing sort of marketing research and needs researchers with training in aspects of English or semiotics or public texts, and that's the sort of career you're interested in pursuing that is more sort of research focused. Or you'd like to be a teacher, or you'd like to work in the university sector. These are also all good reasons for why you might want to go to graduate school. But I think it's fair to say that it is primarily students interested in improving sort of qualifications for career options that draw the majority of students these days. Overall, I mean, there are certainly there's knowledge that you will gain within the specific field that you choose to study within, but more generally, graduate school is good because you increase your marketable and transferable skills in a wide range of things that are attractive to employers and just make you, an all-round well-educated and well-spoken person with good written and oral communication skills, creativity, critical thinking, logical reasoning, problem solving, teamwork. These are all skills that you get the opportunity to develop as a graduate student. Often as a graduate student, you might be focused on your own particular area of research or study, but there are very few programs out there that don't involve some aspect of working in collaborative groups to try to solve a particular problem to a particular timeline, to a particular level of quality that exceeds that at the undergraduate level. So this is all very good training for the workforce or for further careers in research or teaching. It used to be, and this is how I entered into graduate school, that you finished your bachelor's degree, you then entered a master's degree, and then for those of you who were really interested in pursuing that at a much higher and advanced level where you're producing new knowledge and contributing to the field, you'd enter into a PhD program. I'm using the short form here, PhD, but there are other degree names that can go by, including Doctor of Science. DPhil is another one, Doctor of Philosophy, but PhD tends to be the standard within Canada, but overseas you might find some different other versions of the PhD in nomenclature. It's a bit more overlapped these days than it was in the past, insofar as bachelor students can stream into master's programs. You could stream into a GDip program and then ladder into a master's degree. You could start at a master's program and then transition into a PhD program. So the lines between these are a bit more blurred than they were in the past. I know most of you listening to this either now or in the recorded version are probably in your fourth year, and this may not apply. But just so you understand, if you are in your third year going into your fourth year, that there are some opportunities at Trent for entering into an accelerated master's degree program, which involves within your third year identifying a program in which you're interested in pursuing at the graduate level. Currently, there are 4 at Trent that offer accelerated degrees, and that's cultural studies, English public texts, environmental and life sciences, and history. And the way that this works for those of you interested in an accelerated master's program, is you begin some of that research in your fourth year undergraduate program, and that gives you some advanced standing into your master's program, and it allows you to shave a few months off what is typically a 24-month commitment, sometimes a bit longer. It allows you to drop that down to about, by 4 months to 20, or even a bit more, down to 12 to 18 months. So it does give you some advanced standing in that program, which reduces the amount of time that you might otherwise need to commit to fulfilling the obligations of that research degree. For those of you who are thinking about going into master's programs, but might have an eye on a PhD program down the road, you might also encounter, both at Trent and in some other cases, accelerated PhD programs, where you might begin in the master's degree, and provided that you meet certain requirements within that master's degree, and are deemed to be of suitable quality to enter into a PhD, that they will allow you to transfer directly into the PhD program out of the MSc program. That's the case in our Environmental and Life Sciences PhD and Material Science PhD program here at Trent as well, but it's also common in other PhD programs as well. So if your aim is advanced research, then this is certainly an option that you might want to have a look at as well in terms of accelerated PhDs. So you start as a master's, but transition into a PhD. So in terms of Trent's graduate programming and what we offer, and why you might want to look here, we have a comparison to some of the bigger universities out there, are relatively small, but still very healthy graduate student set of graduate student programs at Trent. We have just about 900 students that are currently studying at Trent in graduate degree programs, and that's across both professional and research-based or thesis-based graduate programs, and I'll explain the distinction between those in a couple of slides. We offer about 30 degrees and a few more different streams within these programs, so they're a reasonably wide range of things from which to choose. I'll just quickly run down. We don't have very many graduate diplomas, but just so you're aware of what they are and what's out there. These are typically 2 terms of study. So you enter in September, and then you study in the September term, and then the winter term as well. Take about 5 courses, might be 4, might be 6, but typically about 5 courses. And on successful completion of those courses, you're awarded a graduate diploma. The ones we offer at the moment are a graduate diploma in bioenvironmental modeling and assessment, education community leadership, in instrumental chemical analysis, and mental health and addictions nursing. These are also potentially transferable in that you can, once you're into that program, you might then be able to transfer directly into the master's stream. If it's something you enjoy doing, you can sort of ladder up. That is the term we use into the master's program. But otherwise, it's a 2-term commitment that provides a graduate level qualification. And then we have also course-based master's programs. And these, I think this is a reasonably comprehensive list. It may not be everything, but it's pretty close to everything if it is. These are programs that are taught through coursework. Some of them will include a MRP. If you come across that term, it means a major research paper or project, which is typically a sort of a course length independent study project. And these are otherwise focused on really taking you through a number of courses that then fulfill the obligations of the degree program. There are programs, as you see listed there, from English to financial analytics that are course-based. These typically take between 12 and 16 months to complete, in which you'll take courses across all, maybe 3 or 4 terms, one of which will often be dedicated to the production of a major research paper as well. These are programs for which there is a fee, of course. The fees are outlined on our graduate studies webpage, as they will be on any other university's webpage, to just give you an idea of what these range from. They're often program dependent. So I think these are the current fees for this year, but you can always check by looking at the the tuition page of on our graduate studies website. But forensic science, for instance, is a $14,000 course. Applications modeling about $9,000. Masters management about $20,000. So these are the sort of yearly fees that you could anticipate paying for these graduate programs. But they do vary by program. So you do need to look to ensure that you've got the most up-to-date correct information program by program. Now, these are the taught or professional programs that are typically one year, 12 months to 16 months in duration. Now, master's programs that are research-based are typically 2 years. They take a bit longer to complete and involve some more in-depth and independently focused study to produce a master's thesis, either an MA thesis or an MSc thesis. If it's an MA thesis, they're typically, you might be wondering about the length, they're typically sort of 150-ish page length, and that's sometimes a bit program dependent, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. If it's an MSc, it may be sort of in the 80 to 120 page range. Again, that depends on the requirements of the program. Those are just sort of rough ballpark figures. They typically take several months to conduct the research, collect the data, do the analysis, and then write it up independently. The programs for which we offer this research-based course, a program of study, range also from sort of applications and modeling to anthropology, all the way down to sustainability studies, psychology. So we have a fairly wide range of programs that would allow students to pursue sort of interest and in-depth study across fields that we also teach at the undergraduate level. Some of these are interdisciplinary, so they're not necessarily associated with a single program. That's true, for instance, with sustainability studies, but others are, as you can see, sort of program specific, like English or history. So the contributing faculty may, if you're interested in something like sustainability studies, and you've currently completed, for instance, an economics degree, you may be sort of have opportunities to work with faculty that you haven't yet encountered, which is always an interesting proposition. Tuition for these, and again, you'll need to check for the most up-to-date information, the graduate studies website, either at Trent or at other universities. This is sort of in the range of around $9,400 a year, and they're typically 2-year programs. The difference between these and the professional programs is that often research programs come with funding, because you will typically find yourself part of a research group or working with a supervisor who really needs your expertise to contribute to sort of a program of research that they're interested in having you work with them on. So in a sense, you're becoming a junior colleague and research partner. And as a consequence, you can expect to receive some funding to support your education. So this may come from a variety of sources, but typically it's coming from being a graduate teaching assistant, in which you are sort of developing your skills in the classroom, in which you're running seminars, marking exams, taking some responsibility for course content development. This is, I'm sure you've encountered GTAs in your undergraduate classes. This is typically how they're funded. And then on top of that, you typically can expect to receive some additional funding, between the $4,000 to $8,000, depending on the program, that offsets some of the costs associated with your program. So yeah, that's the major distinction that you should be aware of between the professional stream programs, which are in which you pay the fees, and the research-based programs in which you also pay the fees, but you do receive some funding as well. Now, in terms of qualifications, this is pretty consistent across the board in terms of entry to graduate programs, whether it's Trent or Queen's or Laurier or somewhere else in the province or across Canada for that matter. You do typically need support of the program. So there's some element of the application process, which you're encouraged to contact the program to find out if you think it would be a good fit for you. If it's a research-based program, you also need to have support of a supervisor as well. So there's a slide, and I think it might be the next slide or the one after, where there's some suggestions for how to make contact with a potential research supervisor. For a master's program, you need a 4 years bachelor degree. If you're thinking of doctoral work, then that maybe, I think the majority of people listening to this are probably going to be fourth-year undergraduates, so this may be not necessarily applicable, but if you're thinking of doctoral programs, you need to be sort of in the last year of a master's program. And then for entry to most programs, it's a minimum of a B+ in the last 2 years of full-time study. So we typically don't look at your first 2 years of undergraduate coursework and focus on the last 2 years, and look for an average of 77 or higher in the last 2 years, which would indicate sort of an aptitude for at least course-based instruction that would indicate that you're suitable for entry into your graduate program, and that you perform well at that in educational course-based learning. If it's a heavily subscribed program, of course, there may be higher entrance averages, or there may be some additional criteria that they need you to fulfill sort of some other type of testing in order to be eligible. So again, I would urge you to look at the program that you're interested in applying to. And then there's also typically an application fee for having your application processed to evaluate your the possibility of your entrance into that program. So how do you go about doing that? Again, I'm going to speak to Trent in particular because that's the programs that I know the best, but it's pretty typical for most other universities in Ontario. So our application deadline, I'm not sure if that's system-wide, but certainly the other people on the chat here can confirm if need to be, but I suspect that's sort of more or less a system-wide February the 1st application deadline for most thesis-based programs. There may be a bit more flexibility in some course-based programs. There may be other entrance dates for some course-based programs that don't always have to begin in September. So again, as I've said, I think a dozen times now, if not more, check the individual program requirements. Typically, February the 1st is the deadline for most thesis-based programs. And applications are open now for most universities. For Trent, if you go to www.trentu.ca graduate studies, you'll see links to how to apply page. For research stream master's programs, you need to contact a potential supervisor. And when you apply to the program, you often have to write a sort of a statement of interest in that program, why you're applying to that program. And often in that, you would identify that you've already contacted a potential supervisor, and they provisionally agreed to supervise my thesis research, or some statement to show that you've done your homework and you know that you're entering into this program because you're interested in the work of somebody that you would like to have your work supervised by. So that's something that people often forget to do. All the time we have applications to the programs I've been involved in which a student hasn't made any contact with a faculty supervisor. And in many, well, I would say many, in some cases, we're able to then go back to the student and say, we received your application, you didn't specify anybody in particular, but Professor so-and-so has noted that you have, an interest in, I don't know what it might be, cats, or so, I don't know, whatever it might be, and shares that interest. Would you be interested in working with him or her? That creates an extra step. It's usually better it's shown that you've done your homework and you've already made that first step and contacted somebody. As a faculty member, we get these emails all the time, and it's not at all burdensome to get them. It's quite interesting to get emails from students expressing interest in working with us. So it's something that we look forward, almost universally across the board. It's a pleasure to receive those emails. So don't feel that it's, you might be nervous about doing it, but don't feel nervous about interrupting somebody's day or time with an email about prospective supervision, because it really is something that is a nice part of the job. So by all means, contact people who you're interested in working with. Just make sure you know who you're contacting and why you're contacting them, rather than suggesting you'd like to work with them and not actually, not actually realizing that their research is in a different area altogether. Tell them why you're writing to them, why you find the research interesting, what courses you have already taken in the area that you might be interested in studying at the graduate level. And these don't have to be super specific. You don't have to have a research plan, but you already know that you're going to be working, on a particular species of frog in a particular geographic region. It can be more generally, I'm interested in amphibians in North America. And I know you've done some research in that area, and I would be very excited to join your lab and work with you in that sort of area of study. You can ask if they're accepting graduate students. You can send, and often it's worthwhile sending this just even before they ask, a CV or a resume. And if you have an unofficial transcript, send that as well, so they can look down to see what courses you have that maybe they think that makes you a suitable student to work with them in their area of research or their lab. So if you do your homework, it always helps. And then there are just some other procedural things that you'll need to know in terms of applying to graduate school, in terms of transcripts and letters of reference. You often need to write a personal statement or plan of study, provide a writing sample, an essay that you've previously submitted for evaluation is fine, as well as more procedural things such as citizenship or permanent residency through birth certificates, passports, or PR cards. So these are all sort of part of the application process as well. For getting letters of reference, it's similar to contacting for contacting faculty with whom you're interested in working. It's sort of a polite email saying that you're interested in applying to graduate school, and would they be prepared to write you a letter of reference. You can also attach your transcripts, unofficial transcripts to that, so that because if I get a request to write a letter of reference, I might have taught that student 3 years ago in a course and not have a particularly good idea of what that student has been doing in the last 2 years or how well they'd be doing in other courses. So transcript and a resume or transcript and CV is always helpful in terms of me being able to write a good letter of reference. So provide your academic referees with as much help as you can to enable them to write you a good reference. There are also scholarships. These are often for research-based masters, which would supplement the funding that you'd otherwise get through GTAs or other bursaries in the school in question. These are national, sort of provincial or national scholarships. Again, you should look at the school in question that you're interested in applying to. If it's Trent, it's on our website under how to apply under tuition awards. And there's a list of list of scholarships that students applying to our programs are eligible to apply to. These are often tied to the institution. It's not like you might get a QE2 scholarship and then you can go wherever you want with it. It's often restricted to the institution that you have applied to. So you need to make a decision about which program you're applying, which school you're going to apply to, which program you're applying to, and you're applying for a QE2 scholarship. And then if you get the scholarship, it's eligible at that institution only. So make wise decisions here. Certainly look through the websites of the graduate schools in question to make an informed decision. I think that covers most things. Happily answer any questions, but certainly you can find a lot of answers on our website, on the Graduate Studies website, or email a graduate@trentleigh.ca. There are similar websites and emails for most other universities in the province if you'd like to contact them yourselves in sort of in addition to Trent, but we'd certainly be happy to take any questions now as well. I'll stop that share. Pass over back to Lori or take questions.
Yeah, I didn't need to interrupt you at all there. There's no questions have come in. Does anybody want to type anything into the chat or unmute yourself and ask anything, or is James's presentation too comprehensive? He's answered everything.
I have a question.
Sure.
Graduate programs. For the referral, do we need the referral for masters as well? Like if we are trying to apply for masters in graduate studies rather than just research based?
Yes, most of our programs all request 2 letters of reference. I think every single program now, there used to be one program that didn't, I think that was nursing, but I think all programs do require 2 letters of references. And I believe the majority of them are academic that they ask for. I mean, if you can get 1 academic and 1 professional, that's okay too, but I think the recommended is 2 academic references. Feel free to chime in there, Steph or Aaron, or anything if I'm missing anything.
Does it have to be Trent University Trent University professors?
For an academic, no, it doesn't have to be. It's anybody who can kind of speak to your academic abilities in a graduate program. So yeah.
Okay. That's all. And one more thing, sorry.
Sure.
I'm actually not really like, I am interested in a lot of things. So I haven't really narrowed down which path I want to go to, so, kind of like Mr. James. So what I was thinking about, I was kind of debating between, I was wondering if I'm a business student, right? So I'm a BBA. I was wondering, in terms of getting better qualifications, would an MSc would that an MSc be better, or would an MBA be better? Because I've been receiving so much information that it's kind of like an information overload, and I don't really know which way to go.
Who wants to take that?
It really just depends on your interests. So I would encourage you to really sort of look into the details of some of the specific programs that you're interested in, and maybe look at the faculty listings as well and the research that they're doing in their sort of areas, and see sort of where it aligns with your interests.
But also, if follow on from that, that's really good advice. Look as closely as you can at the curriculum for the program, and look at the courses, and you know, do you feel excited about taking that list of courses? So I made a mistake, I'll happily admit to, when I started in one graduate program that sounded like it would be good, but when I saw the courses I have to take, it was like, oh dear, those, you know, that's not what I wanted to do. So I quit, dropped out very quickly, and then it took me another year to find the program that I was, you know, happy in, and that was, you know, I looked down, I was much more careful then at the choice, because I had actually looked at the courses, and I met the person that was teaching a lot of them, and was super excited about beginning it, and all worked out. So I didn't, yeah, I was sort of, I chose the program rather than the courses and the supervisor in my first sort of round of graduate studies.
And just to add to that too, like that information is available on our website, or you can feel free to reach out to the program or to Graduate at Trent U, as Jane mentioned, and we can get the information for you, because on the website it does list the different courses. For example, I'm saying Master of Management. I think you said you're interested in that as one possibility, but it definitely lays out all the courses there. And if you're having troubles finding it, the admin assistant can definitely help you with that as well. And AMOD does as well. If you go to their website, it lists the courses. And so does the academic calendar, which is available on our website. It has more detail on each course that you will be taking.
Yeah, the academic calendar is a great resource. It lays out the number of required courses versus electives, and has descriptions for every course. So I would definitely have a look there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions?
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in my 4th year of the compressed nursing program.
Mhm.
And I was just wondering, when I was looking into the graduate program for nursing, it was attached to UOIT, I think. Is that correct? Like, what is it attached to UOIT or no?
It's a joint program with Ontario Tech.
Ontario Tech, yeah. And how does that work? Does that mean that a lot of the courses would be done there at that university, and not at Trent?
They share the course offerings. So some are offered at Trent and some are offered at Ontario Tech.
Okay, so both. And I know that the minimum that you said was approximately a B plus, like 77%. What would be, because I know a lot of graduate programs, they say that, but then a lot of times they'll accept, like you said, individual programs would accept higher GPAs. Do you know what GPA for the nursing program they would accept?
So the requirements for nursing are actually different than our standard 77%. The requirement is a 73%.
Oh,
which
it's
is a B. Which
okay.
is a little less.
But
Okay.
I think, going by memory from last year's stuff, I think that, yeah, you should definitely aim for at least that 73 from, yeah, just looking through, like, I work in admissions quite a bit, and I think that 73 is definitely a minimum. If you can have higher than that, you would have a better chance.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because a lot of the times, like, let's say, for example, I don't know, U of T, to get into the physical therapy, they say, okay, you have to have you have a B plus, but then realistically, they want a 4.0.
Right.
It's like, you don't really, they say that, but it's really, who do they really accept is what I was trying to find out.
Mhm.
Okay, so if they said 73%, then if you have an A or so, you should be okay.
And it all depends on the year as well and how many people are applying. Because this is a fairly new program that you're talking about. So I think there were quite a few people that applied last year. So it just kind of depends on the pool of applicants as well.
I should mention as well that it's an online degree, so regardless of who's offering the courses, whether it be Trent or Ontario Tech, they are available online. So it's not like expectation is that you're traveling back and forth. No.
Oh, great. Okay, so it is online. I didn't know that. Okay, great. So it's an online program, and it's this, because I know nursing's a lot different than the other, sometimes it could be different than the other programs. Okay, great. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, is the percentage of how much we need for the academic years, is that available on the Trent's website as well for each of the
Mhm. Yeah,
programs?
I can put that in the chat if you want, but yes, the way it's laid out on the website, you click on the program that you're interested in. Once you go into fees and tuition, you click on the program, and then from there, it'll give you a total for 12 months. So if the program, for example, if it's a modern management, it's 16-month program, it will give you an estimate at the bottom of each chart. So there's different charts for domestic versus international. So it'll give you a breakdown of how much the fall term is, the winter term, and the spring term, but it will also total the three up. So you'll have a total for 12 months, but then there's also an approximate amount for the full duration of the degree, the 16 months. Does that help? Is that what you were kind of referring to? No?
No, I was asking about the percentage, like how,
Like the entrance requirements, the admission.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's on every program page as well. So if you go to programs on our website, each individual program page outlines the admission requirements. So it will tell you what the required admissions average is. And so that's based on your last 2 years of full-time study or last 10 credits.
Okay, thank you.
I also have one other question, if that's okay.
Mhm.
So for the same program, the nursing one for the Ontario Tech of Science and Nursing. So I technically graduate in December, and do they require you to have your registration before you can apply for the graduate program? Because when I was looking into some of the graduate programs in other places, they were saying that you had to have the designation of the RN before you could, like, to be in it. So I wasn't sure if, because I'd be graduating December, and then if the application process ends in February or something like that, I only have a small amount of time to write the NCLEX and then get my results and everything, so I could be able to apply for September.
So they do say that you need to be registered in good standing with the licensing body in the province in which you work. However, I think I would encourage you to reach out to them, because I do know there are times where that has not that it's not a requirement, but in situations like you're describing where it's sort of in process, that they would consider that. So I would encourage you maybe to reach out to the program to let them know that that's your situation.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
I had a question. This is not really connected and kind of connected. Is there anyone at Trent that I could speak to understand a little bit more about, like, the programs in detail, or like specific to me? Is there anyone who I can discuss the options with?
Well, the School of Graduate Studies, we don't really have academic advisors like they do have at the undergraduate level. What I usually encourage people to do is look at the various programs that you think you might be interested in that kind of best align with where your interests lie. Really review those websites. Like James and Steph were saying earlier, look at the courses, try to narrow it down a little bit, and then maybe reach out to the administrative assistant from that program and ask some further questions from there. If they're more general questions on applying or admissions and not very program specific, our office is always able to help you. We can always reply to emails within a couple of days at this time of year. It's pretty quick, so you can email us at graduate@trentu. So we don't have an advisor, but based on what you're interested in, I think if you just review, you'll come up with more questions probably once you've reviewed these websites, and maybe
Okay.
getting answers to those questions to do with 2 or 3 different programs might help you make your decision, and we will be advising you per se. So I don't know if anyone else has anything to add, but
Oh, I think that's good advice.
okay, well, if there aren't any further questions, I guess we will wrap up the event. As I said, this event is recorded, so we'll post it on our website and try to share it widely in case there is other things that you might have missed partway through you want to refer back to. But I do thank you for joining us today. It was great to have a few of you here and learning about grad studies at Trent. And thank you, James, for doing this. And
Thank you for organizing it, Lori.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.